So for the record, I'm Delegate Michelle Guyton, Baltimore County District 42B, and I'm here to present House Bill 450, another beautiful bill for me that costs you nothing, right? We like that in appropriations, I hope. But this bill also does what I believe, and I know many of you believe, because I know your hearts, government should do, which is support the people who need our support without placing unnecessary barriers in front of them, right? So this bill simply eases the burden of people with permanent disabilities who use public transit, right? By not requiring them to apply every year or every 3 years dependent on their disability. So currently there is a program where folks with disabilities can get a card and can buy reduced fares for public transit, but they have to certify, some of them every year and some of them every 3 years, that they are still disabled. And to do that, you have to go to the doctor, and then you have to fill out the paperwork. And on the list, just for an example, on the list of some of the things that you need to recertify according to our state government are things like, are you still an amputee? Right? Some of these things just don't make sense. So we bring this bill to you, House Bill 450, to ensure that a person with a disability is not expected to go to the doctor and to get recertified to prove that they have a permanent disability if they've proven it once, and that they are automatically renewed for this discount card. Thank you very much. I request a favorable report on House Bill 450.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Matt Rice. I am the Executive Director of People on the Go Maryland, which is Maryland's statewide self-advocacy organization ran for and by those with intellectual and/or developmental disabilities. We are here to testify in strong support of HB 450, which would allow for a permanent disability designation for those who are permanently disabled, to avoid recertification for paratransit and other services. As the delegate rightly said, this creates an unnecessary administrative burden for doctors and people with disabilities and their supporters, because you have to figure out, how am I going to get to the doctor? The doctor has to figure out, for example, how do I answer certain questions? Like I get asked, how many feet can you wheel yourself? I don't know that. And the doctor doesn't know that. And quite frankly, I get asked by him, why do I have to recertify this for you and for people like you? So we see this as reducing the administrative burden, providing needed supports, and frankly, it's just common sense. So thank you, Delegate Guyton, for your continued leadership, and I respectfully ask for a favorable report.
Thank you. Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Vice Chair and members of the committee. My name is Andy Culp, and I'm the Executive Director of the ARC Maryland. The ARC is a statewide advocacy organization for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families. And we believe House Bill 450 will reduce unnecessary burdens for people with disabilities and, as Matt said, reduce MTA administrative time that's currently spent on recertifications of riders with permanent disabilities, thus fulfilling our charge to modernize and streamline our systems. So all states are different in their processes for recertifying people with developmental disabilities. In Maryland, the maximum period for which a person can be certified is 36 months. In both Washington, D.C. and New York, individuals are required to certify on at least a 5-year basis, while there are many states that for whom reduced fare transit is allowed for people with permanent disability status without the need for recertification. Take Washington State, Puget Sound regional reduced fare system, permanent permits are issued to people with obvious physical impairments meeting one or more medical criteria from a list, including people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, people with traumatic brain injury, and people with serious persistent chronic mental health diagnoses. For a person to be diagnosed with a developmental disability, the disability must manifest before the age of 22, it must continue indefinitely, and it must substantially limit one or more major activity on an ongoing basis. So this makes sense, and it's good policy to make this change, not only for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, but for people with other permanent disabilities as well. And for this reason, we encourage a favorable report on House Bill 450 and thank the sponsor for bringing this matter up for your consideration. Thank you.
And also witnesses, do we have any questions from members of the committee or our guests who are here? Great, thank you very much. We also have two virtual witnesses. We could pull them both up. Daria Pugh with the Disability Rights Maryland. Also Ronza Othman with the National Federation of the Blind of Maryland. Okay. We have Daria Pugh who is joining us.
Hello, sorry for the technical difficulties. Thank you, Chair Barnes and Vice Chair Chang and the Appropriation Committee members for the opportunity to testify in support of House Bill 450. And a special thanks to Delegate Guyton for supporting this bill and recognizing the importance of affordable and accessible public transportation. I'm Daria Pugh, an attorney with Disability Rights Maryland. DRM defends and advances the civil rights of Marylanders with disabilities. DRM supports House Bill 450, which requires the Maryland Transit Administration to automatically renew reduced fare certification for Marylanders with permanent disabilities. MTA's reduced fare program lowers the financial burden for people with disabilities to access public transportation, making it easier for them to move about their communities, attend school, work, religious services, and medical appointments. Currently, transit riders with permanent disabilities must recertify their disability status every 3 years to maintain their reduced fare certification. House Bill 450 requires MTA to make that renewal automatic for people with permanent disabilities. DRM supports House Bill 450 because it reduces the administrative burden for transit riders with permanent disabilities. Every step in the renewal process poses a risk that a person with reduced fare certification may lapse. A reduced fare certification lapse could be detrimental to an individual's health and well-being. It could mean choosing between paying for a fare to go to work or a grocery store, or missing a doctor's appointments because they cannot maintain or afford both the full fare and the copay. House Bill 450 removes that burden for transit riders with permanent disabilities. This legislation is a crucial step forward to enhancing the quality of life for Marylanders with disabilities by ensuring uninterrupted access to affordable public transportation. For these reasons, Disability Rights Maryland supports House Bill 450 and requests a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Are there any questions for Ms. Pugh? Okay, great. Thank you very much. And try one more time for Ronza Othman. Ronza Othman. Okay, great. Thank you very much. That concludes the bill hearing for House Bill 450.